The key benefit of this process is that it outlines and guides the selection of resources and assigns them to their respective activities. Like I just said, just in time process. So this process is performed periodically throughout the project as needed. Whenever required, the thing will go on. Like it will be like part of your schedule to schedule the hiring of the people, placing the orders and all that. That can you can include in your schedule with due margins. So the process itself will have inputs similar to what we had earlier. The project management plan, the project documents, enterprise non-structure, then organization process assets. And naturally in project management plan, we would definitely have the resource management plan, but also because we are dealing with non-living objects as well, and we might have to buy certain materials, so procurement management plan is also part of it. And naturally, cost baseline should be in front of you, as if you can plan correctly which resources are, how much funding is available, and when it is to be spent. The cash flows, expected cash flows must be in front of you. So cost baseline is also a major input. The documents you would be referring to would be naturally the schedule, the resource calendars you have, the resources, whatever resources will be made available, how and when are they going to be available. That is given in the resource calendar. Your resource requirements have already been sorted out in the previous process where you estimated the resources, and now the stakeholder register will also help you if you can consult with your stakeholders as far as resources are concerned. Tools are not that difficult, we simply have to make the right decision at the right time, and naturally it will be kind of a analysis you have to carry out which resource to select for what purpose. So therefore, this could be a multi-criteria decision analysis in which you use the weighted averages. Interpersonal and team skills, naturally, once the team, the living resources are concerned, you have to, deal with them. You have to get them through the forming, storming, and norming stages, and in which they may have the conflicts, and you have to get them sorted out. So you have to negotiate terms with them, and ultimately, once they are all right, then we pre-assign them to their job. Even before the work has started, that is the dummy work I'm talking about, pre-assign them, see their performance, improve it, and when the actual task is to be done, they should be fully ready. They may be asked to work in virtual environments, which is very common nowadays. So if that be the case, then probably virtual teams could also be used as a tool. Outputs would be actually the physical assignment of the resources will happen. So physical resource assignments. Project teams will be assigned, the people within a team with their roles and responsibilities. The resource calendar will be, updated regarding, whichever resources you have actually brought on board, when and how they will be available. This you would know exactly. If there is any change request, anything you have done in acquisition of resources which may affect the scope, time, or cost baseline, then probably you have to move a change request. Project management plan will be updated as far as the resource management plan is concerned. That can be updated. Cost baseline could be updated, and several project documents may be affected by this. Could be the lesson learned register, project schedule, a resource breakdown structure. Resource breakdown structure, probably I did talk yesterday also. This is a very interesting concept where you can even keep an inventory of living resources. All kinds of resources are in the breakdown, and you would exactly know how many resources you have got of each category, and then when you assign them, you would know what is left. So this is a very good tool to keep an inventory of all living and non-living resources. Then your resource requirements may be updated in light of the skills you have got, the people you have hired, and the resources you have brought on board. Risk register naturally will be affected by whatever resources we have, and stakeholder register may be updated. So again, the enterprise non-factor and process assets which we received as an input would be updated as a result of this, because enterprise non-factor will only be updated when you are dealing with human beings. When you're dealing with team, So that is actually affecting the culture of the organization. So therefore, you may be giving some output towards the enterprise around two factors. Similarly, you may learn new lessons and they could be updating the organizational process assets. Let me see if there is anything important in this specific process which needs to be discussed. Otherwise, everything I have explained is nothing very important. In decision making, it says some examples of selection criteria: availability, cost, and ability. Once you collect, making the decision for the resources, first of all, verify the availability of the resource on the project within the time period needed. So if that cannot be made available, that naturally is out of my decision. Cost benefit analysis we are already conducting. Verify if the cost of adding the resource is within the prescribed budget. So I have the cost baseline. I'll compare it against that and see if I can afford it. Ability, that is the competence. Verify that the team member provides the capability needed by the project. Then is the selection criteria itself, but all you should consider as far as the team resources are concerned, the human resources are concerned. Naturally, the experience that has to be taken care of, the knowledge, their skill. Very important is their attitude. And on top of that, maybe you are working in multicultural environment or things like that. So the international factor, like, their communication skills, working with other time zones, people located at other places, how to communicate and interact with them. As far as interpersonal and team skills are concerned, the project management team may need to negotiate with the functional managers, because you interact with the functional managers who are actually running the organization. Because we will get most of the resources from the functional manager, even some of the team members will also be coming from the different functions of the organization. So you have to ensure that project receives the best resources possible. You see, if you ask human resource department to supply you certain number of people, what they will do is they will send the least experienced people, because they know that projects are high demanding and the people who work on projects, they get experience, they get, their competence is enhanced, they learn a lot there. Therefore, their best option is to send in non-experienced people, whereas we can't afford it. In project, we want the job done in the best way, and therefore we have to ensure, do not leave ever on the HR manager or the functional manager to select for you. Yes, of course, we can always rely on them as far as the facilitation is concerned, helping us, supporting us. But at the same time, you must be in the driving seat when it comes to deciding on which resource you are inducting in your project. If HR has suggested some resource which you think is not suitable, you must refuse. What strategy they use is, normally they give you the resource at the very last moment, and then you don't have time to refuse. So better ensure in your schedule that this selection process happens much earlier. Other project management teams within the performing organization appropriately assign and share scarce and specialized resources. Actually, this is true for human or non-human resources, both. Anything which is in demand will always be shortage. There will always be shortage of that item. No matter it is a human being, it is another resource or whatever. So look at this aspect, that those people who are specialized, who have got something special to offer, they must be really taken care of and they must be appropriately used. Then we have the external organizations and suppliers. Provide appropriate, scarce and specialized, qualified, certified or other specific team or physical resources. Special consideration should be given to external negotiating policies, practices, processes, guidelines, etc. Because when you are dealing with other organizations, your organizational policies may not work. So to work with other organizations, we have to have some consensus on the policies which we'll be following. So those are the guidelines which are there for negotiating with outside bodies. Pre-assignment I have explained, virtual team I have explained. There's some points about virtual team model makes it possible to, for example, number one, form teams of people from the same organization who live in widespread geographic areas. I suppose this is not really, you understand how they work. Add special expertise to project team, even though the expert is not in the same geographic area. This is very common because actually if the team is spread over the globe, then probably the person who is leading it or who is an expert in it will be in one specific area, not everywhere. So you have to live with it, and you have to tune yourself to the way of working in a multicultural environment where you are located in different geographic locations. Incorporate employees who work from home offices. This is also very common nowadays in North America. They work on, they rely on telecommuting. They ask their workers to work from home at least twice a week. That would reduce a lot of traffic from the roads, and a lot of savings are done in the organization, also in the organization or offices as well. Form teams of people who work different shifts, hours, or days. If there is a requirement of working, round the clock, then probably it may not be necessary that everybody comes at the same time to the office. You could work in shifts or hours or days or whatever. In some organizations, it is very common that you have to complete 8 hours a day, no matter when. So it might be your choice. It might be flexi timing whenever you want to start your time and finish your time. But then in such like environment, it would be the individual task. So if at all you are working in a team, then probably whole of the team will have to work, negotiate on that timing and whatever. Include people and mobility limitations or disabilities. Again, something which is not really very common here in our country. We do not respect disabilities a lot. We do not provide, facilities for the disabled. So if at all you have people who are disabled, they have limitations of mobility. We must have ramps and everything, and parking spaces and all that. Move forward with projects that would have been held or cancelled due to travel expenses, and save the expenses of offices and all physical equipment needed for employees. You don't have to have one big office in one place. You may have just people working from home and 10 different countries, and still you are serving the person. And you are also not needed to travel everywhere every other day because your team is there, somebody is there. So this could be a very useful model, and probably you might have been using it already. Then are the outputs. I think there is nothing to explain in output. We have already discussed. Coming over to the developed team. Now that the team is on board, now this process is specifically for the living resources. This is not for non-living resources. This is not a material. This is not a thing. This is the team which we have just developed. Mind it, we are not talking about an individual here. We are talking about a team. So it is more of a teamwork. We have prepared this team of individuals naturally, but they now are a cohesive whole, and I have to deal with the team. So develop team is the process of improving the competencies, the DNA training needs.
Sir, I'm very sorry. मुझे 5 मिनट की ब्रेक मिल सकती है प्लीज?
जी क्यों नहीं करें?
मैं आपको 5 मिनट ज्वाइन करता हूँ. सॉरी.
Okay. Right, so we were talking about storming and norming. Actually, you prepare your team to be at the level of competency that they can perform the job which they are assigned in the most efficient, effective manner. So this process is improving their competency, team member interaction. They must have formed and stormed and normed, and the overall team environment to enhance project performance. Key benefit is naturally it results in improved teamwork, enhanced interpersonal skills and competence in motivated employees, reduced attrition, and improved overall project performance. In inputs, you don't see much difference. Project management plan, out of which I am taking out the resource management plan. Project documents, I'm taking into account the lessons learned, project schedule, team assignments, calendars, and especially the team charter here, because now the team has been chartered. Enterprise management and process assets. So what I need to do, what are the tools I need to have? First of all, co-location. Try, if possible, to co-locate all your workers or team members together, if that is possible. For example, if they're in the same building and they're working on the same task, why should they not be co-located into one room? So your optimum should be to co-locate them together as if they can even physically talk to each other. But naturally, we do understand that there are multicultural environments. Sometimes geographic disparities are available, and you have your team members too far off. Then we must understand how to deal with the virtual teams. We must also understand the communication technology in vogue in the specific situation of our project. In some of the cases, this might just hold on a second, please.
Sure.
Right. So, okay. About communication technology, I was talking. You see, in communication technology, what happens is that the nature of your project will tell you, will dictate what kind of communication technology can be used. For example, you're working on an oil and gas rig and there is no communication by a cell tower or things like that, no internet or whatever. You have to resort to TRIA or something, satellite communication or whatever. So you have to look at the available options of communication, because that would greatly affect your team working. Then coming over to the interpersonal and team skills. In interpersonal team skills, naturally, there are a lot many things to be taken care of. Although we understand that we have gone through the storming stage, forming, storming, and norming stage, now after the develop team process, we will be performing. So just look at it. Conflicts will rise in the storming phase, and leadership will influence at that stage, motivate them, negotiate with them, and ultimately the team will be built. This all is happening in forming, storming, and norming. Once the team is built and it is trained and it is ready to act, that is the point when we employ them on the job. We also must put in place a mechanism of recognition and rewards. Everybody who is working on team must know and understand what they are doing and what is the reward for that. How are they going to be recognized or not? I have seen many people, they are just disheartened due to the fact that there is no recognition given to them. These people do not need rewards at all. They just want to be patted upon. If you don't pat a person on good work done, then he loses the heart. They should be provided requisite training if required. Maybe you are a software engineer and you are employed in a job of a software engineer, but there is a specific type of software or specific language you are to master to do that job. So that training might have to be provided to you. Then there has to be a proper mechanism of individual and team assessments. As we set KPIs for our strategy and goals, so here for the assessment of our individuals or our teams, we must have some mechanism established. That is very much in line with the recognition and reward. So it will depend upon this assessment that they will be recognized and rewarded. And naturally, you will be conducting a number of meetings with your team members during this phase. So there is no actual work happening as far as the project is concerned, but you are preparing the team, you are developing the team. So once the team is developed, you have a proper team performance assessment ready. If at all doing all this, you have changed anything which you came across a case where scope time or cost baseline were disturbed, you may move a change request. Otherwise, you can simply update the project management plan and project documents, and enterprise notice structures and organized process assets will also be updated. Again, as the humans are involved, that's why enterprise notice factors are being updated. Otherwise, you can't update enterprise notice factors in any other way. This is the humans, the people, the team members who will actually be affecting the culture of the organization. When they go out from this project, they will be affecting the culture of the organization. Then the organization process assets will be updated. So this is the development of the team. Let us see if we have got more details about certain things there.
Sir, one question here before we move on. We discussed here communication technology in this part of team building, whereas we have a separate knowledge area for communication management as well.
Yeah.
So is it only about team communication that we are talking about here, or is there an overlap here?
Yes, our focus is on the team communication, how the team is going to communicate. If it is a virtual team, then probably we must specify that you can communicate through email or some application or whatever. So that thing has to be established, because team is more prime to me. Team must be always in communication. Although this will be
Right.
as a whole in the communication management plan, but here we are concerned about the team.
Right.
Okay, there are some points here. High team performance. How can that be achieved by employing these behaviors? So, first of all, these are very common points. Anybody could have told you. Using open and effective communication. This is very important. We are doing exactly opposite to that. We are not talking the same thing to everybody. We are hiding the things from team members, educating one on something and others are not knowing what is going on. And secondly, because we are not effective speakers, effective communicators, so we do not explain the things the way they should be. It should be concise and clear and effective. The communication we do is totally confusing. The other person who is at the receiving end probably may not understand anything at all what the communicator is trying to convey. So, communicator has to work on his skills, communication skills, and he must understand the openness and the effectiveness factor. Then creating team building opportunities. Now we are putting these guys together in form of a team, and they should be promoted as a team. They should be built as a team. If there are any skills missing, train them. If they make them work together and see how they gel with each other. So they must be provided team building opportunities. You might have seen in large organizations, they do provide such kind of team building activities are conducted all the time. And not only that, at the corporate level also, they provide you certain events where you can, off time, you can communicate with each other, and in a free mode, you can talk to each other. And then developing trust among team members. This is very important. And again, if we are not trusting our team members, then probably you will be doubting the work of the other person, and you will be rechecking it, checking it, and wasting time on it. So we must understand the capabilities of each and every person first. Secondly, we must have done the team building process properly, and we must have confidence what the other person can do, and this trust is going to go along with. If there are any conflicts during the way, managing conflicts in a constructive way rather than let them grow. The best way to manage the conflicts, I have read many ways the conflicts can be managed, but the best way is, although you may not agree, but that is confrontation. When an issue between two people arises, they must resolve it there and then. If they do not talk about it, I'm not saying that they should fight. They should keep their cool, but at the same time, they must discuss it. Because if they do not, then probably both of the team members would be thinking they were right, and they would keep a grudge forever. So constructive manner is that you should let them resolve it by themselves. See, some people say that you should negotiate and you should get into their conflict and resolve it, but that is smoothing. That is not really, you're not managing the conflict at all. You are just putting the things under the carpet. So let them resolve it by themselves, and that is the constructive manner. And encouraging collaborative problem solving. We don't want one odd person to be the most intelligent person answering every question. No, we want the team as a whole, as one single body, working together on the problems and decision making. Both, they should be owners of all the decisions. They should be the problem solvers together. So this is a collaborative effort. This is a team effort. We are not going to reward or encourage any one person for that. This is for the team. Then are the objectives of developing a project team? That is to include improving the knowledge and skill of team members to increase their ability to complete project deliverables while lowering cost, reducing schedule, and improving quality. So that is exactly what we were saying. When we are putting these people on job, we must ensure that according to the needs of the job, they have the requisite capability and capacity. The team must have requisite capability and capacity, and they should be able to perform optimally. Meaning what? Optimally means lowering the cost, reducing the schedule, improving the quality. This all is included in the definition of optimal. Improving feelings of trust and agreement among team members to raise morale, lower conflict, and increase teamwork. Probably this is self-explanatory. Creating a dynamic, cohesive, and collaborative team culture. Now, this is a step forward. The organization or the organizational team or of anybody, big body or small body, whatever kind of a body it is, that should be dynamic in nature. An organization learning by itself. So a team, it should not be relying on the leader, but it should be dynamic in nature. It should gel together, cohesive, and there would be a culture of collaboration amongst the team. This will improve individual and team productivity, team spirit and cooperation, and allow cross-training and mentoring between team members to share knowledge and expertise. You might have seen in office spaces how the co-workers mentor each other. I have a problem, I go to you and I share over a cup of tea or whatever, and you tell me some advice, you give me some advice. So that is a kind of mentoring going on amongst the people. Or maybe a person is better at using Excel and I have a problem in Excel, and he would give me that knowledge, and that way, though he is trained and I am not trained, but I will gain that knowledge. So this is something in a collaborative environment. The team grows as a whole, not a single person. Empowering the team to participate in decision making and take ownership of the provided solutions to improve team productivity for more effective and efficient results. You see, as we have already discussed about the decision making on all that, team should be empowered and they should take on the responsibility. You will also notice that when we say that, probably we are in a way promoting agile. In agile, these things are more pronounced. All of these items, all of these things, the collaboration with the team, the empowerment of the team, the whole responsibility in agile is taken up by the team, and the team lead is almost nobody in that, except for a facilitator. Then are the stages which we already discussed: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. I hope I have already explained that, and if at all you need to read it, you can always read it. But this is how it is. Team is formed, and then they have some conflicts, and they have some jagged edges. They fight it out. They have conflicts, and later they normalize, they start understanding the work habits and behaviors of their colleagues, and ultimately they develop a kind of understanding. Then is the stage when they really can perform. And after they have performed and work is done, then we adjourn the team. Team is no more. Okay. I don't see anything more important here. Let's see. Yeah. Rules and techniques, co-location, as I said, it involves placing many or all of the most active team members in the same physical location, if possible. That is a kind of preference, that if you can bring all the team members together in one room or under one roof, that would be much better. If you have virtual teams, the use of virtual teams can bring benefits such as the use of more skilled resources, reduced cost, less travel. We already discussed that. So that benefit could also be taken advantage of. As you were talking about the communication technology, here is some detail. What kind of communication technology you may be using? The team may be using the shared portals, shared repository of your own organization software or whatever, collaboration software. Video conferencing is a very wonderful tool. Audio conferencing and emails and chat. These are the communication technology you are more concerned about when it comes to the team. Then interpersonal and team skills, conflict management. Actually, we are going through the storming, forming, and all that. Influencing skills. Skills used in this process is gathering relevant and critical information to address important issues and reach agreements while maintaining mutual trust. Motivation naturally is providing a reason for someone to act. Actually, this is a turning point for between the human beings and the other resources. Other resources, like there is a tool or equipment or raw material, we need not motivate it. You need not motivate it. If it is there, it will work. But a human being, no matter you are paying him, no matter how efficient that person is, but without motivation, he may not work, or he may not work to the level desired of him. So to motivate that person to that specific level, that is the important thing. Motivation is providing a reason for someone to act. Teams are motivated by empowering them. You see, this is important. Without empowerment, there is no motivation. Once you say that this is your goal, this is your objective, you own it, you are empowering that guy. So do it as you feel. So this is our motivation. So that way they participate in decision making and they are encouraged to work independently. That will reap a lot of results. But again, teamwork should be there. Negotiation among team members is used to reach consensus on project needs. Negotiation can build trust and harmony among the team members. But again, I would say during negotiation, there should not be any more conflict. Negotiation is a culminating point. Conflicts we have already resolved. Then are the team building exercises. Team building is conducting activities that enhance the team's social relations and build a collaborative and cooperative working environment. Team building activities can vary from a 5-minute agenda item in a status review meeting to an off-site professional facilitated event designed to improve interpersonal relationships. You see, this can go to any level. You can sometimes play games, maybe a table tennis table is set up, and sometimes your team members start playing that. Look at the Google, how they have organized this space. So they have made it so easy for everyone. Anyone who wants to do anything is available there. Food is available there. The games are available there. The environment is so, well tailored for the team that they can do anything they feel like. So team building exercises should be there. Recognition and reward, as I have already said, people should know what is the reward of what they are doing, and they should be rewarded accordingly. Trainings and all that. Team performance assessments coming as an output. The project team development effort such as training, team building, and co-location are implemented, the project management team makes formal or informal assessment of the project team's effectiveness. This is the effectiveness which makes them ready for the job. The evaluation of team effectiveness may include, like, improvement in skills. So what was the skill this person had before when he joined, and what is the skill now? Improvement in competency, reduce staff turnover rate, increase team cohesiveness. So somehow you should have some KPIs to measure that, and you should be able to assess these things and advise the team to improve on certain items. And then the next process comes is the manage team. Now, when we say manage team, we are still in execution, but this is actually the process where the team is put to work. Before that, when we were developing the team, acquiring the team, we were just preparing for this work. Here, we have put this team on job as per the schedule. Whatever activity they are supposed to be doing, as per the schedule, they would be doing those activities, and the person managing them would just, facilitate that they can do that. So the inputs again, like earlier, they're almost the same. Project and plan, we need a source plan out of it. Project documents, just hold on a minute, please. I'm sorry, there was some disturbance. Okay. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Right. So this is the time when we are actually going to start work on it. And while people are working, the team is working, we are ensuring that, everything is going well, and we are rewarding, and whatever we have designed earlier, we are actually conducting it. So I have the resource management plan, I have the project documents like issue log, lessons learned, register, and project team assignments have already been done. The team charter has already been done. So these documents I have. Now there, in addition to the enterprise management factor and organization process assets, I have two new inputs here, which have not been there before in the earlier processes. One is a work performance report. Can you tell me from where this thing has come?
Which one, sorry?
Work performance reports.
Work performance report should come from the controls. So
Okay.
the data will come from the execution, and report or the information and the report will come from the controls.
Exactly. The monitor and control project work will compile the information into a work performance report, and that work performance report is important to be sent back to execution, as if the managed team process can see how well the job has been done, and then allocate the reward or blame or whatever to the team members and deal with the team, because they have to deal with it.
Right.
So that is one thing. Work performance report is very important for dealing with the team, because as far as the team is concerned, team is dealt with in execution. Team reporting and all that is not the job of monitoring and control. Monitoring and control is all about work performance and this and that. But as far as the teams are concerned, you deal with them during execution. So other thing is the team performance assessments. Naturally, whatever the improvement you have brought into the team by the previous process, you will have that assessment in front of you, and based on that, you will be putting them on job. Tools and techniques we have is naturally the interpersonal and team skills, and naturally the same items will be repeated here. Conflict management, naturally during the work conflicts, if any, how to manage them. Decision making, we have already empowered them, so we will rely on their decision making. One other thing is the emotional intelligence. Now this is one of the very important areas, I would say latest areas on which PMI is working a lot. And I have seen some books on emotional intelligence in project management also. So this is something important. I hope you understand what emotional intelligence really means. This is this is not the IQ, but it is called EQ, emotional quotient. How well you gel with others, and how well you translate the message the other people are saying, how empathetic you are, and how socially you can fit into your team. So a person who doesn't keep his own self prime would easily gel with everybody. He would easily be able to understand others. So emotional intelligence in a team is really very beneficial. Then influencing is required for motivational purposes. You have already provided motivation, but now you have to keep influencing them to work better, work harder, and whatever. And while all this is happening, the leadership has to be provided to them. Then, as far as the uh, automated tools are concerned, we must have some kind of a project management information system which will record what they are doing, and as I said, the communication technology we talked about. So whatever this project management information system could keep a record of what this team is doing and how well they have performed. Not only the team, but the whole project management information system will also keep the record of the team. Resultantly, if there is something which is affecting the scope, time, or cost of the project, we can always move a change request. Naturally, there are problems due to which we have to change a person or something like that, and that would affect the main project. Some harm has been done, some person is not working, and due to that, some scope has not been met, and we have to bring changes to the project management plan. So change request could be moved for that. And then resultantly, the project plans to be amended. The resource management plan in it, the schedule baseline, the cost baseline, they all can be amended according to the change request. And project documents could also be amended, like issue logs, the lesson learned, and team assignment. And ultimately, here you see only the enterprise normative factors are being updated. That means the organization culture is being affected by this. Humans are involved. As far as organization processes are concerned, they are not updated from here. Okay. Okay, but there is nothing very much special here. Conflict management we have already talked about. I think you can read about the conflict management in a little more detail given here. But we understand what the conflict is and how to resolve it. Just
Actually, just before we start the session today, in the interview, I was asked about conflict management, and the answer I gave was the typical one. I mean, you need to talk to people, you need to, engage with them, and try to resolve it in closed doors, X, Y, Z. But you gave me another perspective of it, which is very interesting.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Conflict actually cannot be resolved by anyone. No third party can ever resolve a conflict. वो कीना रहता है दिल के अंदर कि यार ये मेरे से गलती हो गई है. So that thing, the best is they resolve by themselves. To provide them opportunity, provide them social setting or something like that. Cool their tempers. हाँ इतना आप कर सकते हैं. Cool their tempers and then make them sit together. And
Right.
do not force the solution onto them. अगर आप force करेंगे तो वो temporary होगा. That will not really हल नहीं होगा.
Right.
Anyways, factors that influence conflict resolution methods include importance and intensity of the conflict. These things are important. What is the importance and intensity of the conflict? Time pressure for resolving conflict. This is what you might be talking about. That I have less time and this conflict must go. So I can't give it enough time. So just put it under the rag and immediately have some ready-made solution and move ahead with it. Yes, you can do that, but naturally you know your situation. Better would be that it could be resolved in a more amicable manner. Relative power of the people involved in the conflict. Importance of maintaining a good relationship and motivation to resolve conflict on a long-term or short-term basis. This is also a very important point. Are you targeting the short-term or a long-term benefit? So if you are just talking about a short-term, मेरा काम निकल जाए, इनका conflict जल्दी से resolve हो जाए, तो तब तो ठीक है. लेकिन if you are not doing that only for the short-term, for long-term relationship, you are establishing that. Then once you resolve their conflict, first time conflict, they will not have conflict again. But if you do not, you do it in short-term basis, then probably the same conflict, the similar kind of conflict will keep rising over and over again. Okay, there are 5 general techniques to resolving the conflict. This is exactly what I was talking about, and they will be asking questions about it in the exam. Now, listen to them very carefully. I know you might be knowing them already, but this is very interesting. One is withdraw or avoid. This is a loser's solution. Loser's solution. When you have a fight, you just run away. So retreating from an actual or potential conflict situation, postponing the issue to be better prepared or to be resolved by others. I do not say this is wrong. Sometimes there is no way but to withdraw. If you see we do not have enough time for all these things, so you say, okay, I withdraw my point, but actually you are keeping that point for future. So this is one option to withdraw and avoid the conflict. Now, number one, I said that people who are not really brave enough to face their adversary, they would like to withdraw. And secondly, it could be a strategic decision. Then is a smoothing and accommodating. Yeah, you are changing your opinion just to accommodate and to facilitate your opponent. So sometimes yes, you have to do that. But this is again a loser solution. Emphasizing areas of agreement rather than areas of difference. Conceding one's position to the needs of others to maintain harmony in relationship. You don't want the relationship to go bad. Therefore, you say, you see, we are very good friends. We eat the same food and we like visiting the same places. What about this job is okay? This is not a big problem. So the conflict as job may not spoil our relationship or something like that. So what we are trying to do is the conflict we are putting it under the carpet. So this smoothing is not going to solve the problem forever. This is just putting it off for some time, and it is like a ticking time bomb, and it will ultimately explode. You might have seen people exploding. This is very common. If you keep abusing someone and he keeps absorbing it for too long, then one day that person is going to blast. Then is compromise, reconcile. Now, people think that compromise is the good solution. Well, yes, it may be. Searching for a solution that brings some degree of satisfaction to all parties in order to temporarily or partially resolve the conflict. You see, it is itself saying temporarily or partially resolve the conflict. So it is a win-lose kind of a thing. In some things you win and some things you lose. This approach occasionally results, rather it says a lose-lose relationship from the perspective that both parties have to lose something to gain something. So this is not really a win-win situation. This is not even a win-lose situation. This is a lose-lose situation because both parties are losing something, giving away something. Force and direct. Now this is very interesting that out of the two parties, one is more powerful and it can force a decision down the throat of the other party all the time. So this is force and direct, and this is win for the stronger party and lose always for the weaker party. This approach often results in win-lose situation. Then the last but not the least is the collaborate and the problem solve. This is probably the best solution out of the given. This could be, termed as a win-win solution in which you try to resolve the problem, incorporating multiple viewpoints and insights from differing perspectives requires a cooperative attitude and open dialogue that typically leads to consensus and commitment. This approach can result in a win-win situation. Here I'll give you two views of that. From the emotional intelligence point of view, when you try to resolve the problem, there is a term which I had spoken earlier, and that is called empathy. Empathy is not thinking from your brain, trying to think from the brain of the other person with whom you are having conflict. What arguments are coming to his mind, try to think of them. If you become him, then you will have a lot many things answered automatically, because now you are being empathetic. You are thinking like him, and you are not doing your point. This will be, this is counted towards the emotional intelligence also. This will help you resolve the issue. You will find the right choice and you will be able to do it. There is another tool which is called active listening. I might have mentioned it before. Active listening is that you want to talk to someone, you're talking to someone, and that person is communicating something to you, and you are trying to absorb as much as possible. Normally we don't. Normally we are passive listeners. Some of the message is conveyed and which is not absorbed, and some is absorbed. And that which is absorbed is hardly 20-25%. How can you increase that? That is to pay attention naturally. That would be effective listening. But a step ahead of effective listening is active listening. In active listening, you not only absorb the message as much as you can, but then you stop the speaker after you have reached your optimum memory or whatever you can say. You cannot grasp anymore. Then you stop the speaker and convey the whole message he has committed to you in a very summarized form. Maybe in few seconds or a minute, you convey that message back to that person and ask for confirmation. In that way, that capsule of information, if confirmed, you can move ahead. But if it is not confirmed, then the correction will be applied immediately. That way, you will be actively listening. I have read someone, probably Dale Carnegie. He writes in his book that I applied this skill of active listening in a dinner conversation, and I was made to talk to a biologist, and whole night he kept giving me the stories about his biology and all that. And I am not a biologist, I don't know nothing about biology, but I listened to him actively. And I kept asking questions, and he kept answering them. And that way I did grasp a lot of message. But the interesting part was that end of the day, when we were leaving, he went to the host of the meeting and he dragged me along, and he specially thanked the host, that person, specially thanked the host for introducing him to such a nice and talkative person. You understand what I say? Who was talking? The biologist was talking all the time. Dale Carnegie was
Yes.
just listening to him and actively listening to him and making few questions. And he felt, the biologist felt that we had been conversing. We had been,
Right.
we had been talking. You see, this is the strength of this thing. Another example would be that Dale Carnegie even says in one of his books, he says, if there is a conflict, now this is getting interesting. If there is a conflict, active listening could resolve the problem. How could it be? He says, okay, bring me two people who have conflict and I'll show you how active listening will solve the problem. So he becomes a kind of a facilitator, not, I won't say mediator or anything, but a facilitator. He first asks first person to give his argument. And while he is giving his argument, nobody is supposed to speak in between. So give him his time, give him 4 or 5 minutes. When he has given all of his argument, then he turns to the other person. The other person starts speaking outright because he was not allowed to speak earlier. So he starts defending himself. He starts speaking. Dale Carnegie stopped him. He said, okay, I didn't ask you to give your point of view. I just wanted to ask you, did you understand what the person one has said? Can you reproduce the message? So when he was asked to reproduce the message, he could not because he didn't listen. He was not listening. He was preparing his own argument. He was not listening to the other person. So he could not reproduce the message. He turned back to person one and asked him to tell the message again. This time, the person B was more attentive and he, when he was asked to reproduce the message, he pretty much did reproduce the message, but there were certain things which were not accurate. And again, it was the person A who corrected ultimately later than that. He told him, well, I did not mean this, and this was actually the message, and so on and so forth. Once the person B was able to reproduce the complete message, meaning what? He has actually understood what person A wanted to say. Only then he was allowed to make his point. Then he was asked, what is your point? And you know what? Person B says, I have no point at all because I got my answer.
Right.
You see, the basic reason behind a conflict is the attitude. We are both saying the same thing, but we are putting it in a different way. And we don't want to agree that we are saying the same thing. So generally, the problems are resolved as soon as you understand the other person's point of view. And we must try to understand, we must be empathetic towards that. So to create empathy, we can do that. Well, the discussion is going long, but I would like to quote yet another strategy, and that is by Edward de Bono. Heard about him?
No, I know about Dale Carnegie, but not about this gentleman.
Edward de Bono is the father of creativity. Anything, talk about brainstorming, creativity and all that. This person spent all his life writing about creativity and he has written over 80 books on it. And he has come up with a completely new theory about the creativity. Anyways, he, in one of his books, writes that even United Nations is a useless body. And there must be a collaboration of international bodies in which the problems are solved. Exactly the same thing what we are talking about. And he says all these methods which the world is using, they are useless. Even the win-win situation which is being shown here as collaborate, problem solve, this is not going to solve the problem. Because even if you collaborate, still you are losing something you are losing. So what he says is, he says the solution as designing your way out of conflict. Designing your way out of conflict. He says, I will become mediator between the two parties, and I will ask them what they want. No, I will not ask them what they want. I'll ask them before the conflict occurred where they were. So they say, okay, about 3 years back, this was our conflict. Like, take the example of Kashmir conflict. In 1947, we were living together and we were very happy and all that. This is okay, fine. This is when there was no conflict, right? Now tell me, if there had not been any conflict, where you would have been today. You understand my point?
Yes.
So they picture something of of today, how it could have been. Then he asked them, how can we design a way from that non-conflicting situation to this scenario? This is a scenario we want to create today of collaboration. So how can we reach here? Forget about all the arguments you have against each other, how many lives you have lost in between, but just tell me that if there has to be an independent Kashmir, how will it look like and how are you both going to support it? So let's design a way towards that. So this is his solution, and he denies even that this win-win situation is a win-win situation. He says designing your way out of conflict is a win-win situation. Did you get my point?
Right. So basically, he's saying that how things would have looked like today if there was no conflict, and we need to design a way to reach that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So this is very interesting topic. You read more books and things about it, you will learn more. But you see, the small articles on internet, they are quite misguiding, because 1 or 2 page article will not be will be just a crux of some research, but it won't give you a fair idea how the things are going. You better start reading books of these things, and then only you will understand the spirit of it. Then is the decision making. Naturally, some guidelines for decision making are: focus on the goal to be served, follow a decision making process, study the environmental factors, analyze available information, stimulate team creativity. This is the creativity I was talking about, and then account for risk. So whenever you have to decide, you have to be methodological. You just can't. I am really amazed by people who decide by their gut feeling. How can someone have intuition suddenly, and he can give a decision and he says that this is my gut feeling, this is what is going to happen. So that's why we'll do like this. Analyze your decision properly. Go through these steps one by one, and only then you will be able to a better decision maker. I understand that sometimes the gut feeling guy may make a good decision sometimes, but that doesn't mean that all his decisions are coming from Almighty. Therefore, the right way of making the decisions would be go in a method, go in a sequence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to identify, assess, and manage the personal emotions of oneself and other people. You must know your emotions. You must know the emotions of people you are dealing with, as well as the collective emotion of group of people. This is the empathy we are creating. Team can use emotional intelligence to reduce tension, increase cooperation by identifying, assessing, and controlling the sentiments of project team members, anticipating their actions, acknowledging their concerns, and following up on their issues. Well, the people who are dealing with psychology, they can see a step ahead just because they understand the other people. So, although I understand this is not really common with human beings, that they can anticipate the next step, but people do. who understand the psychology of the other person, they would be able to say, "Ab ye karega." So whatever he is about to do, you can perceive that that is exactly a good sign of emotional intelligence. Then key influencing skills could be ability to be persuasive. Well, I agree that if you have to convey a message to someone, it must be with some force, some energy, some conviction. So you have to be persuasive. But that doesn't really mean that you are, you know, pushing a decision down the throat of the
Sir, actually, I lost your audio for like 15-20 seconds.
Where we left. Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, you were explaining emotional intelligence.
Okay, emotional intelligence, I was just saying that I was probably in the last part of it. So you can
Yes.
reduce the tension and increase the cooperation of your team members naturally by identifying, assessing, and controlling the sentiments of the project team members, anticipating their action. First of all, understand them. Then you should be able to kind of have a psyche evolve that person. You would know what he is going to do in this situation. So that would be the best way of using this emotional intelligence, acknowledging their concerns and following up on their issues. So people will be happy if you are a problem solver for them, if you are resolving issues for them. Then in influencing, we have, I was talking about the persuasiveness. You must be persuasive, but to some extent. You should not be forcing your decisions down the throat of others. But whatever you say, it should not be too mellow. So as a leader, you must be persuasive. But at the same time, you must be flexible. You must be able to understand others. Clearly articulate your point and position. You must be able to a good communicator. Speak well. I was subject matter expert on the next PMI conference is going on in Europe, and I was asked by PMI to listen to the presentations of two speakers, and one of the speakers I have evaluated so far, and it was so horrible a speech I have listened. He was probably from Brazil or something. He could not articulate himself. He could not clearly
Right.
give his point at all. He could not be persuasive. I did tell him that you have to improve on these things. Otherwise, you won't be able to face the audience. But this is a very common problem. Most of us are not very articulated. I appreciate the way you express. I have asked you questions. You are very clear in what you are saying. You can articulate very well. So this capability is not there with everyone. There are some people, when you ask them to do something, they will start giving you a long story. And ultimately, the purpose is not resolved. High level of active and effective listening. We have already talked about the active and effective listening. Effective listening without questioning, but listening carefully. Active listening with questions, confirming after every some time, and moving on with stages. Awareness of and consideration for the various perspectives in any situation. Gathering relevant information to address issues and reach agreement while maintaining mutual trust. Like you see, you were there for interview today. Probably you know Nokia already, but you see, if you were not knowing it, then before going to the interview, you must have visited their website. You must have collected as much data about this company as possible, because
Yes.
whatever they can ask, you want to be prepared. So gather relevant data to address all the issues. They could have asked anything. So this is how a leader
True.
should behave. A leader should be persuasive, clear, effective, active listener, must be aware and must be able to collect the relevant information. Then is the leadership itself. Successful projects require leaders with strong leadership skill, and naturally all those skills we were talking about were also leadership skills. Leadership is the ability to lead a team and inspire them to do their job well. But you know what we understand, we do not understand this thing. I am from a background of armed forces, and leadership in armed forces is entirely different. This is forcing autocratically your decision down the throat of the other person, not listening to him, not entertaining him. So I had that understanding of how the leadership is, but my perspective was changed when I did my leadership masters in leadership by PMI Leadership Institute of Masters class. So it's not about the power you exercise; it's about how much can you inspire you, how can you motivate. This is leadership. People should be following you. You should not be running after you. It encompasses a wide range of
But
skills.
sir, one point here or one comment here. Like you mentioned, I mean, you come from armed forces background, leadership is different, and your concept changed completely. But then it also tells us that it depends on the organization itself, how they define leadership. Because in army, if you, I mean, that is the way they define leadership, because they have to fight wars, and it's not possible to go into a war if your leadership style is practiced differently in the organization. So it tells us also that maybe the organization also has its own requirements.
You see, we have to leave this to the intelligence of the person who is being led. You can't blindside him. You can't say you are not supposed to think. You see, if your country is going into a wrong war and this person does not want to fight, why should he fight? Like, take the example of Muhammad Ali, boxer. No, he did not want to go for Vietnam War and he refused. And they put him in jail just because, against military regulations. So what is this law? Basically, this has to be a willing thing going on. So yes, I do agree with some requirement of this kind of leadership in armed forces, but then that should be a conscious decision of the person being led, that I am doing this for my nation and I have to listen to this person. This should not be an autocracy.
Right.
So anyways, the next is project management system, and the outputs we are getting is the change requests and all that we have already talked about. So just skipping that. Last process is control resources, and control resources is naturally like control schedule, like control scope, control cost. So here we are receiving the work performance data, evaluating it, and giving work performance information outside. So what all we have? We have the project management plan, which includes the resource management plan. We have the project documents, which have the issue log, lessons learned, resource assignments, project schedule, all those things. We have got them, resource breakdown structure, resource requirement, and risk register. The special thing we have here is the work performance data. We are in monitoring and control, and from execution, all the work performance data is received. Remember, control resources. In control resources, we are not talking about only the human beings. We are talking about all the resources, and especially the non-living resources, because all that dealing we had to do with the human resources was to be meted in managed resources. So as far as the human resources are concerned, managed resources their control. As far as the humans are concerned, their reports are not to be written here, but only for the equipment and materials and all that, they are to be accounted for. So this work performance data is for that purpose. We have all the agreements with our subcontractors, organizing process assets. We will do the data analysis. We will have the alternative analysis, cost benefit analysis, performance reviews, trend analysis. We already know about these things. We will use the problem solving skills, interpersonal and team skills, negotiation, influencing, etc. and project management information system will be used, and ultimately we will convert the work performance data into work performance information, and if need be, change request will be launched, and accordingly project management plan and project documents may be updated as required. So the control resource process is mainly and broadly for the non-living resources, but you see, if there is a little bit of communication or things going on, but the basic dealing with human beings finishes in managed resource process. Let me see if there is anything more important here. Updating resource allocation requires knowing what actual resources have been used to date and what is still needed. This is the inventory control kind of a thing. This is done mainly by reviewing the performance usage to date. Control resources is concerned with monitoring resource expenditures, identifying, dealing with resource shortage, surplus. So we are not dealing with humans here. Ensuring that resources are used and released accordingly, informing appropriate stakeholders if any issues arise with relevant resources, influencing the factors that can create the resource utilization change, and managing the actual change as they occur. Okay, what else? I don't think there is anything left. We have covered it all. So this brings us to the end of resource management. Before moving on,
Sir, one question here.
yeah.
You mentioned that this is mainly about the non-living things, certain, the reports that are being generated. One thing that we do in projects, I mean, practically speaking, from my field, we are doing one kind of a resource evaluation of each resource every quarter or every 6 months, which is compiled by each team, and then it is evaluated, which is an input for promotions or for other things. How does that fit in this resource management?
Okay. Right. I think there is a voice problem, but I understand your point. You see, the execution, managed team, and this control resources, managed team is in execution and control resources in monitoring and control. You remember, execution and monitoring and control are overlapping all the time. You understand that? Are you there? Dan, can you listen to me?
Hear your voice.
Okay.
I can hear your voice.
Right. So I'm saying execution and monitoring control are actually happening in parallel. While the execution is going on, monitoring control is going on. Now, in execution, we are managing the team, while in monitoring and control, we are controlling the resources, and we are sending back a report to manage quality, manage resources also about the work performance report. So, as far as the humans are concerned, you can have whatever kind of assessment you are doing, but that is actually happening during execution. You got my point? Is it okay?
Yes, it's clear. Maybe my voice is not clear, but I can hear you.
Right. Give me about 10-20 minutes break, and I'll get back with communication.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Right, we are going to start with the communication management. I think we should do stakeholder management also beside it, because that is 13th chapter, this is 10th chapter. So 10th and 11th I will be doing one after the other. Then we'll do 11 and 12 later. Why I'm doing that? Because communication and stakeholder have lot many things in common. Although the purpose is slightly different, but they coincide as far as the communication is concerned. it is amongst all the stakeholders. So project communication management naturally is bigger than what we were talking earlier in communication technology when we were discussing resources. This is much bigger than that. We are now talking about all the types of communications which can happen within a project. This is not only the team communication. This is communication with the stakeholders, communication with the outside world, inside world, organization, everything. So project communication management includes the processes necessary to ensure that the information needs of the project and its stakeholders. This is important. The information needs of the project and its stakeholders are met through development of artifacts, documents, whatever, and implementation of activities designed to achieve effective information exchange. So we have to do certain things to ensure this communication does happen. This consists of two parts. The first part is developing a strategy to ensure communication is effective for stakeholders. That is the planning part of it. Second part is carrying out the activities necessary to implement the communication strategy. So whatever I have designed, what I have planned, I have to abide by that. I have to execute that communication strategy. So if you look at the processes, there are not so many. There are just three processes here. Plan communication management, which will result in the communication management plan. Manage communication, which is actually the communication happening during execution. And monitor communication is taking a postmortem of what communication has been done and what has been done right or wrong, and how to correct it. So plan communication management is the process of developing an appropriate approach and plan for project communication activities based on the information needs and needs of each stakeholder, our group, available organizational assets and needs of the project. So these are the three things I have to look into. What are the stakeholders want? Number two, what are my available capabilities or organizational assets? And number three, what are the needs of the project? Naturally, all of these three things have to be considered for formulating a communication strategy. Then manage communication is the process. You see, it shows a number of things. Process of ensuring timely and appropriate collection of information from source, creation of information, distribution this information to whatever the source ultimate destination is, then keeping a storage copy, retrieval of that storage. Can you listen to me? I feel there is a problem in voice.
Yes, I'm following.
Okay. If there's a problem, do let me know, because
I'm following.
My computer is showing that there is a degraded audio quality. Anyways.
Okay, right.
So you must have a proper mechanism of storing all the communications, and then in future, for future use, you should be able to retrieve it. You should be able to manage it, monitor it, and ultimately that information which is no more needed must be disposed of. As far as the monitor communication, the process of ensuring the information needs of the project and its stakeholders are met, and naturally, if there is anything wrong, then change request could be launched, and that problem can be fixed. Okay, before I can start with the key concept, let me talk about one thing, and that is how much communication can happen on our project. How much communication can happen in a project? Can you answer that?
Sorry, how much the impact it has on the project management?
No. I mean, like, I and you are communicating. How many communication channels will be opened, and how much communication will actually occur on the project?
I mean, when you're running a project, there is a lot of different forms of communication. The way I see it from my background, one main communication is your internal one, which you have with your project or your department. Then you have the communication between different projects or departments within your organization, which can also happen at multiple levels, like the PM level, the team lead level, or different matrices can be made. And most importantly, the communication with the customer, which will be, of course, key. And then that can take different forms, like there can be meeting engagements, there can be emails, there can be video conferencing or audio like we are doing right now, or there can be, verbal communication. So, or telephonic conversation is very, very important. So all kinds of communications will be engaged in all three streams.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we understand that all of these people who have to communicate for this project are, in one way or the other, are the stakeholders to this project. Is it? Do you agree with that?
Yes, yes.
So the communication about the project will only happen amongst these stakeholders and no one else.
Right.
Okay. Do we know the number of stakeholders? How many stakeholders are there?
It is very well, I believe. We know for each project, but we cannot say that every project has this many.
Right. So for every project, I have to identify the stakeholders, and a list of stakeholders or stakeholder register will be created, which we have talked about earlier. That after the charter is developed, the first thing project manager needs to do is to create a stakeholder register, identify the stakeholders, and this is a living list. This can keep keep getting updated throughout the life of the project. Stakeholders may come and go. So at any one point when I'm trying to develop a communication strategy, the first thing I need to do is I need to see who will communicate, and these are the stakeholders. So whatever number of stakeholders are there, then that is a good start to take. Okay, having said that, let us see. I'm not right now. I'm not discussing about what type of communication will go on between the stakeholders, because that is another aspect. I am saying if you and I, we are both two stakeholders, we can communicate with each other. So for communicating with each other, we must have a communication channel. By channel, I do not mean any internet channel or something like that. I'm just saying that we must know each other as if we can talk to each other.
Yes.
We must have been introduced. We must know each other. We must know why we are going to be talking. So only then we can communicate. If I don't know you and you don't know me, how could we ever have communicated? So there was a third person who introduced you to me and me to you, and now there is a direct channel of communication between you and me. So between any two stakeholders, there will be a communication channel. Once the communication channel is established, now I can call you on phone, I can email you, I can do the audio conference, I can do anything, I can communicate in any way I want. But the communication channel, I know this is a communication channel, I know you, and I can always open this communication channel and communicate with you. So this is one communication channel. So these are two people only. But if we were three people, if there were three stakeholders on the project, how many communication channels will be open? Ji, please.
There will be three-way communication, basically.
Okay. Actually, is there a problem with your net or my net?
It depends. So, my internet, because I was also giving the interview on the call, so it was working fine at that time. I'm not sure if something with the network has recently happened. You can hear me right now?
Yes, now I can hear you, but sometimes your voice lingers on. I changed my net also. I was previously using another net, now I'm using another net. but still I have the same problem as far as your voice is concerned. It lingers on sometimes.
Okay, maybe in the next break I will have a look what is going on. Maybe somebody else is using something. But if my voice is clear, the communication, I believe it depends, because certain, for example, in my communication with the customer in telecommunication projects, generally there is for example, I'm working for Nokia, and Huawei is another stakeholder, and they are, for example, for the same scope, they are another stakeholder from the equipment point of view. So when we want to raise a case with them, it has to go through the customer. So where we are three stakeholders, but the customer or the operator has to act in the middle, and they have to somehow, we talk to them and they talk to to Huawei people for that purpose. Whereas in other cases it can be three as well, directly as well.
That is agreed, but right now I'm just talking about if there are no such restrictions and there are three stakeholders, how many channels will be opened? As if I'm now adding this thing, as if everyone can talk with everyone.
Three channels.
Three channels. So as soon as you added a stakeholder, you increased from one channel to three channels. Now add another stakeholder and see how many channels you need. 4 stakeholders.
It will be 3 plus 2 plus 1, 6 channels, as I understand.
Exactly. So what is the formula you are using? How are you calculating all that?
I am subtracting by 1 the total number of stakeholders. I am subtracting 1 out of it, and then I'm adding 1 number each less than that. So for example, in this case 4, so I add 3 plus 2 plus 1.
So you are doing factorial?
Yes.
Okay. So I will give you a formula for that, which is a summarization of that report, that factorial thing. That is number of stakeholders minus number of stakeholders multiplied by 1 less the number of stakeholders. Right?
Okay.
So if there are 4, then 4 into 3 is equal to 12.
Yes.
Divided by 2.
Okay.
This gives you 6 communication channels. So that is n into n minus 1 divided by 2.
Okay. Right.
I write here n into n minus 1 divided by 2. So your number of channels would always be this. So you can apply it to anything. So what if we have got 100 stakeholders? How many communication channels can be opened maximum number?
Yeah, it has to be 50 into 99, so it becomes 4950.
4950. Okay, now you got it. Now you got the joke. Now let me put this question in yet another way. When you started the project, as I said, stakeholders will keep changing. When you started the project, you had 27 stakeholders.
Right.
Now, 5 stakeholders have been added.
Right.
You had initially 27. Now 5 have been added. Can you tell me how many additional communication channels you will have to open?
Okay. Uh, 145.
did it right. How you did that? You say previously we had 27, so 27 into 26 divided by 2, and then future number is 32. So 32 into 31 divided by 2, the difference is 1.5, and that is the number of additional channels you require. So probably as far as this formula is concerned, you understand it very completely, and there is no problem in it. Now, what we have just done is we have talked about the maximum number of communication channels which can be opened, and that means everybody is talking to everybody else, right? But that does not happen. That does not happen on projects. We do not. Everybody doesn't talk to everybody. As you were saying, there are certain restrictions sometimes that you can't talk to that stakeholder, and that stakeholder can communicate to only that stakeholder. So, like you said, your customer can talk to Huawei, and you can talk to customer, and then customer, you don't have any direct channel with Huawei.
Yes.
So actually, all the communication channels which are possible, out of them, only some will be used for the benefit of the project. There are many channels you are not going to use ever. There will be restrictions put on certain channels that this communication cannot happen, or there could be conditions imposed on certain channels that this channel will only be used in case of emergency or something like that. So you define it, and that would refine which communication channels will have to be opened for what purpose. What is the worst case scenario on the other side? This is the one extreme is that everybody talks to everyone, which is a very bad situation. There's a total chaos created. We don't want that.
Yes.
The other side of picture is nobody talks to no one, which is again a completely very, very bad situation. So we want people to communicate, but we do not want them talking to anyone and everyone all the time. Therefore, we have to define certain communication channels to be operative and certain not operative. But why do we need to understand how many channels can be opened at the maximum? Because during the project, there might be certain situations arising which would dictate that a special channel be invoked, which was otherwise not planned. So I should know that this is a valid channel, this is a stakeholder, these are the existing stakeholders. We cannot communicate with a non-stakeholder. You understand that point? Only the stakeholders will talk to stakeholders. And my team is a stakeholder, my boss is a stakeholder, my organizational people, they are stakeholders, outside parties, they are stakeholders. So all those who have been identified as stakeholders, they can have the communication channels. But in my communication plan, I will define which communication channels to open and when they are to be open, what are the conditions. So this has to be specified. Number 2, what can be communicated on a communication channel? If there is a communication channel between you and me, what should be communicated? Now, as you are saying, we can email, we can do this, we can do that, but maybe there is a restriction that we cannot physically meet. Maybe you are in Australia and I am here and we cannot physically meet and we can only communicate through telephone or whatever. So those restrictions can also be imposed within a communication channel, and we can have them also defined in the communication management plan. Third, what are the various forms of communication which can happen? Classically speaking, we have written communication, we have verbal communication, and we have non-verbal communication, which you usually call the body language. So, whichever form of communication you are using, Each one of these forms could be used either formally or informally, or they could be used officially or unofficially. So we have to specifically differentiate between each one of those. Like I am writing you a written request, but not on an official format. Will it be entertained for this project? Maybe not. So you probably require an official written request, official written on a proper format or a template. Like I'm applying for something and there is an application form for that, and I have to use that. I just can't write you a letter that I am applying for this position. I have to apply on that format. So these are the written official and unofficial, written formal or informal. So all of these things are communication, and you have to specifically allow specific types of communication for specific channels and stakeholders. Some of the stakeholders may have informal communication, like they can have canteen chatter, they can meet each other and have some gupshup. So if that be the case, that is a proper allowed communication channel. And sometimes this is important to have a chit chat. This is socializing. And in socializing, there is a lot of motivation going on, a lot of news traveling from one point to other. So maybe that is also orchestrated communication. It is not necessary that all the communication is formal or official or things like that. So having understood this general concept, we now look at the mechanisms by which information is exchanged. We write communication, either we do it on electronic, media or on a piece of paper. We speak, maybe face to face. We are talking to each other, or maybe like we are communicating right now. Remotely, we are talking. The communication could be formal or informal. And as I said, there could be body language. The communication without voice. This is through gestures. My pitch of voice is increased or decreased, my tone is changing, or if you are physically able to see me, my facial expressions are changing. So that is also giving you some impression what I mean to say. There are lot many things which we communicate by combining all these effects. The audio, the video, the everything joined together will give us more impact. We can also communicate through media, like I upload some pictures on my Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. I keep posting my update, my status. So all this, it could be made done through media, or maybe I can do announcement on TV. Then is the choice of words. There is often more than one word to express an idea. There can be a subtle difference in the meaning of each of these words and phrases. So right words to be used for right communication. If I want to say something but I put it lightly in some other words, people may misinterpret it. So first of all, we need to understand that these are the key concepts of the project communication management. Okay. Right. So let me move on and see. Yes, here. Just a moment. It will be This is what it is I'm talking about. Communication activities have many dimensions. Communication could be internal. Communication could be external. Communication could be formal. Communication could be informal. But when we say formal and informal, that is more like official and unofficial. But official and unofficial is also categorized separately. But official generally means the annual reports to the regulators, a highly classical official communication of of a company. Unofficial communications that focus on establishing and maintaining the profile and recognition of the project and building strong relationship between the project team. Now, talking about external, when we are talking, when we are internal, external, when we are talking with our own team or our organization, that is internal to the organization. External, when we are talking people outside of the organization. Formal is, as I said, a proper format has been prepared for this project for doing certain things like progress reports and all that. So how those reports have to be communicated formally, they have been earmarked. Anything which is not in that format is informal communication. Then hierarchical focus. Some communications are going upwards, some communications are going downwards, and some communications are going horizontally to your peer level. So this could be another way of looking at it. And then, as I said earlier, communications could be written or oral. Okay. The 5 C's of written communication. These are the 5 C's of written communication. You might have heard it 1,000 times. Use of correct grammar and spelling. Naturally, you understand what is the use of it, what is the benefit of it. Be concise. Expression should be concise. And do not use unnecessary excessive words. Eliminate them. Clear purpose and expression directed to the need of the reader. Tell the focus of your communication in the very first sentence. Clear purpose should be explicitly, as if the expectations are set accordingly. If you are not telling what you really want to say and you are, giving out a story of 20 minutes, people are wondering what he's talking about. So let's first set the ground and give your purpose. Why are you here for? Coherent, logical flow of ideas. Do not break your ideas. Do not, start talking something in the middle of another thing. So there should be a coherent, logical flow of the ideas. Controlling flow of words and ideas. So controlling the flow of words and ideas may involve graphics or just summaries, as we do in the presentation, that while we are talking about something, suddenly we show a diagram to further explain that thing. So these are the 5 C's of written communication. This is specific for the written communication. Now let's compare them with the communication skills. We have already talked about we must be an active listener. So if you are an active listener, staying engaged with the speaker and summarizing conversations to ensure effective information exchange. Naturally, you will grasp the whole message if you are an active listener. Otherwise, hardly 20% of the message will be received. You must be aware about the cultural and personal differences. If you are working with multicultural environment, then you must understand the person you are talking to is in a different time zone. That person speaks a different language. Don't expect him to be speaking a fluent English language. They may have personal differences. They may perceive things differently. So you must keep into account all of these things. Then identifying, setting, and managing stakeholder expectations. When negotiating with stakeholders, reduces the existence of conflicting expectations among the stakeholder community. Enhancement of skills. Enhancing the skills of all team members in the following activities. Like, the team members should be skilled in all these areas, like persuading a person, a team, or an organization to perform an action. Motivating people and providing encouragement or reassurance. Coaching to improve performance and achieving desired results. Negotiating to achieve mutually acceptable agreements between parties and reduce approval or decision delays. Resolving conflicts to prevent disruptive impacts. So these are various communication skills which could be used to supplement the 5 C's of written communication. As we have already understood the fundamental attributes of effective communication activities and developing effective communication artifacts, clarity is one thing. On the purpose of the communication, why are you communicating? You must be clear. When you are deciding which channel to open and what communication to go on with that, you must first define the purpose of that communication. That must be necessary for the project. If it is not necessary for the project, such a communication should not occur. Then understand as much as possible about the receiver of the communications, meeting needs and preferences. So we already have the stakeholder needs and expectations with us. Does that stakeholder need to be communicated that thing? If he is a contender for that, then probably he must be informed. If he doesn't desire that information, that communication, why are we having this communication? Number two, whomsoever is receiving this, when and how much this communication has to occur with him. And then not only that, you have defined the right communication at the right time, but you have to ensure by monitoring and measuring if the effectiveness of communication is there or not. You must keep in touch with your stakeholders and keep talking to them all the time during execution as if they are okay with the type of communication going on or they want some addition or improvement. Similarly, in monitoring and control, we will postmortem however the communication has happened and what we did wrong and what we did right and how to correct it. If there is a need to correct something, we may even move a change request for that. But change request will only be moved if that communication is affecting the scope, time or cost of the project. Some trends and emerging practices in project communication management. Inclusion of stakeholders in project reviews. Very important. As I said earlier, I have been harping on this point that stakeholders are to be involved in the project. They must be, made aware of what is happening. Keep the system simple and transparent. Do not hide things from the stakeholders unnecessarily. Only when a stakeholder intends not to get a certain information, only then you don't provide him that information. Otherwise, any information which stakeholder needs must anyways be provided to him. So, he must be involved in project reviews, inclusion of stakeholder in project meetings if possible, increased use of social computing. Like, you are using WhatsApp and this application has the social communicating mechanism available in it, in which any message sent out can be read by all. So there is an increased use of this social computing thing. So we can always make use of this for our projects. I do understand that certain type of famous communication tools or applications are being misused. Like, people are using it for fun. But then there are applications which are custom designed for the purpose of specific projects. You can have your own mechanism like WhatsApp, not exactly WhatsApp, but something like that, which you can custom design for only the audience of a project. I have a number of applications in my mind. They are productivity tools. You can download them from any mobile application. They can be useful for that. But some people I see, they still use WhatsApp and other things. If they can control their groups, then probably it is okay. But there are some limitations with the public kind of social computing platforms. Multifaceted approaches to communication. The standard communication strategy for project stakeholder communications embraces and selects from all technologies and respect cultural, practical, and personal preferences for language, media, content, and delivery. So, howsoever your stakeholders wants to communicate, maybe you are in a multicultural environment and your Chinese friend needs to read the messages in Chinese, so it should automatically be translated into Chinese, and his Chinese messages should automatically be translated to whatever language the receiver can understand. When appropriate, social media and other advanced computing technologies may be included. Multifaceted approaches such as these are more effective for communicating to stakeholders from different generations and cultures. Then comes the tailoring consideration. What all can be tailored according to the needs of the stakeholders. As we were discussing this in the beginning, it all depends upon who all are the stakeholders, internal or external to the organization, because the communication will have to go on in between them. Whatever communication we design is go on within the stakeholder. So it is tailored according to the stakeholder. Then the physical location. What is the physical location of a team member? Is the team member co-located? Is the team in the same geographical area? Is the team distributed across the multiple time zones? So each of these answers would dictate what kind of communication can happen. Communication technology. What communication technology is available to develop, record, transmit, retrieve, track, and store communication artifacts? What technologies are most appropriate and most cost effective for communicating to the stakeholders? What language is to be used? Language is a main factor to consider in communication activities. Is one language used for all or many languages? Have allowances been made to adjust to the complexity of team members from diverse language groups? As I said, we could have a mechanism in which the language is translated automatically. Knowledge management. Does the organization have a formal knowledge management repository? Is the repository used or not? So it is a good practice. Whatever communication is going on must always be recorded and must be placed in the archive. As far as Agile is concerned, naturally we do understand that in Agile the communication needs are extremely high. Project environments subject to various elements of ambiguity and change have an inherent need to communicate evolving and emerging details more frequently and quickly. This motivates streamlining team member access to information, frequent team checkpoints, and co-locating team members as much as possible. In addition, hosting project artifacts in a transparent fashion and holding regular stakeholder reviews are intended to promote communication and management for stakeholders. You see, this is exactly what we are doing. In Agile, we are meeting the stakeholders at the end of every iteration, and we are interacting with the stakeholder regularly after every 2 weeks. And every 2 weeks, we are delivering something to him. So, this communication channel is always on. Coming over to each one of these processes, plan communication management naturally is actually responsible for developing the communication management plan. So you have to devise your communication strategy and all that here in this, and also define how the communication will be ultimately managed and controlled. Key benefit of this process is a documented approach to effectively and efficiently engage stakeholders by presenting relevant information in a timely manner. This process is performed periodically throughout the project as needed. So, initially when we create the communication management plan, naturally for any management plan we need a charter, we need the project plan, we need the project documents, enterprise management structure, and organizational process assets. The tools we use here are like communication requirements analysis. So we have to assess our stakeholders and their communication needs and expectations, and as a result of this analysis, the requirement analysis about the communication. I'm not talking about the overall requirement analysis. We are talking about the communication requirements analysis. So who needs what information and when? So basically this requirement should come from the stakeholders, not you should not be designing it on your own. So ask your stakeholders what do they want and when. Then look at the communication technology in vogue. Which communication technology will be used for what kind of communication? Then what are the different communication models available? I'll discuss a basic communication model, but basically there could be any number of models available in an organization. Then are the interpersonal team skills, which we have already been discussing, but here the ingredients are slightly different. Communication style and style assessment, which communication style is suitable. Then political awareness and cultural awareness. So we must understand where we are, with whom we are communicating, and is there any political or cultural need to be fulfilled. Maybe you have to say certain words in front of a certain community, which are expected to be mandatory. So after that is the data representation. How do you represent this data in front of others? The stakeholder engagement assessment matrix could be a tool there, and meetings could be another tool. The result is the communication management plan basically, but in that your stakeholder management plan will also get updated, and the project documents which can be updated are the project schedule and the stakeholder register. So I don't find anything more to discuss here for communication management plan. Okay, about the interactive communication model. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the basic communication model. Yes, this is the basic communication model. Tell me if you can see this diagram. I know it is not there as yet. Yeah. Can you see this?
I can see it.
Okay. This is
Yes, I can see.
This is a basic communication model. Let us say I want to talk to you. Whatever the message I am trying to communicate to you, first of all, I will think about it. So my mind is not thinking in the language I speak. Mind is working on some nerve endings passing on some kind of a current somewhere. So these are not words, these are signals. So my mind will frame a message in those signals, which before it can come out of my mouth has to be encoded into a language which you understand. So I will encode it into a language, and that language, that voice is transmitted from my mouth to your ear. And there's a distance between my mouth and your ear, and in this distance there could be a lot of noise. So the message which I am sending you might be polluted by the noise in between. And then is the question of your perception. What do you listen? What do you hear? And how do you perceive it? So message you receive may be due to a lot of noise in between. You could not exactly capture it, and you understood something else, or maybe you were not attentive, or whatever the reason could be, the message could get garbled. So whatever message has been received at your end, you will have to send it to your mind by again decoding it into the nerves. What do they call it? Neurons or something. So that has to be translated, decoded into that. And once that is done successfully, you should acknowledge me by saying something or maybe waving at me or whatever. So acknowledge message would also be passing through some kind of noise and will get to me, but this is just an acknowledgement. Yes, I have received the message. Then you will start working on the answer to my question, and then you will encode yet another message, and that would actually be the feedback message, and that would again reach me. And this way, we both can communicate with each other. So this is a very basic model of communication. The basic model is the encoding, transmission of message, and decoding. And the little complication we have brought into it is feedback loop. The feedback loop and acknowledgement message, this was the cross-cultural interactive communication model. So these are the two models in front of you. One is encoding, transmit, message, and decode, and the other is including the two additional things, that is acknowledge and feedback response. These are the basic models. Now look at your organization and see what kind of model are they adopting. Okay. As far as the communication methods are concerned, there are three types of communication methods. One is interactive communication, as we are two people discussing something with each other. So we interact with each other. I say something, you answer that, and then maybe you ask something and I answer that. So this is interactive communication. Then we have got push communication and pull communication. I am sure you must be aware about push and pull communication. Do you?
Push communication will be something which is, it's not two-way. It's either they call it simplex communication, something which is one way, as I understand.
Right, it is one way, but I have pushed the information from my end and I have sent it to you. Now it is your baby, whether you read it or not.
Right.
So as far as I am concerned, I have
Right.
sent you the communication. I have written you a letter or an email or whatever, and it depends upon you whether you perceive it, understand it, read it, whatever. So this is just
Right.
getting rid of the communication. I am just sending it off. The other type of communication is a pull communication. That means the communication could be available at a public place from where anyone can benefit from it. I place an advertisement on a notice board, and anyone interested can read it and benefit from it. This is a pull type of communication. When anybody needs that information, that gets that information from a notice board or an archive or wherever I have placed it. So we have both kind of these models available in your computer also. Email is a push communication. Your bulletin boards, or for that matter, what do you call it, the Facebook and LinkedIn and all that, this is a pull communication. I have written a message, it is displayed there. So whenever you will log in and you will log into the Facebook or LinkedIn, you can read my message and react on it. So this is a pull communication. You have pulled the communication when you desired. Then are the different approaches should be applied to meet the needs of the major forms of communication defined in the communication management plan. Interpersonal communication. This is the information exchange between two people, maybe face to face. This is interpersonal communication. Small group communication is a small team conducting a meeting. A small group of say 3 to 5 people, 6 people, they are sitting together to discuss something. Public communication, a single speaker is addressing a group of people. And a mass communication, there is a minimal connection between people and group. You see, as we are moving away from interpersonal, we are losing touch of connectivity. We are not that connected during that period. Interpersonal, two people are discussing something, they are thoroughly engaged with each other In a small group, one person is speaking and 3, 4, 5 people are listening. Some of them are engaged, some are not really engaged. In a public communication, I'm a speaker and addressing so many people. So this is not very interactive, but still some of the people are getting my message, some are not. Mass communication. We have probably, I am on a virtual side delivering a lecture, like, you go to projectmanagement.com. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now. It went for a few seconds. Now it's back.
Okay. Right. So I was talking about the mass communication. In mass communication, you might have heard about the webinars being conducted online. That is a very interesting experience. Actually, PMI has got a site, projectmanagement.com, and there are hundreds and thousands of webinars, live webinars and recorded webinars lying there, and you can get your PDUs from there. You can keep listening to them. All the webinars are just 1 hour webinars, and while listening to any one of the webinars, you can gain one professional development unit. If you are a PMP, you need to have PDUs, and you can gain your PDUs from there also.
Right.
Right. What I was saying was that mass communication is unique. I have actually live delivered some lectures on projectmanagement.com, and I was flabbergasted and so impressed about the audience. You see, I have never seen so many people listening to a speech.
Right.
The counter underneath of showing the people was continuously revolving, and it was not in hundreds or thousands. It was in millions, lakhs and millions.
Really?
And it was continuously, for 1 hour of session, it was revolving throughout. People were logging in. So mass communication, I have no personal contact with anyone. But the interesting part about the IT is that they have made things so easy for people. So thousands and millions of people who are listening to a live session, they can not only listen to the session, they can also chat with each other, communicate with each other, and maybe if there is a question, they can ask each other. They can ask questions to the speaker also, but naturally I can't respond to millions of people at once. So all the questions, they go to the moderator. There is a moderator sitting from PMI side. That moderator receives all those messages, and he or she then sorts those messages and picks the most important messages, 2 to 3, 4, 5 messages, which are posed to the speaker at the end of the speech, and then he answers those questions. So this probably is a nice way of emulating interaction online. But this is a humbling experience, really.
Right. Amazing.
And I would very strongly suggest that you should listen to some of those webinars there. If you are a PMI member, you don't have to pay anything on projectmanagement.com.
Right.
It is free for you.
Right.
And once you are comfortable with it, then try to be a speaker sometime.
Right.
Next is the network and social computing communication. It supports emerging communication trends of many to many supported by social computing technology and media. That at the same time, many people are communicating with many people, but the application is same, right? So everything you are discussing is actually not being shared with everyone, but the channels are automatically being opened amongst the stakeholders through that application. So that could be amazing, and we can have that kind of communication. So in other words, all your communication needs can be taken care of by the latest advancements. Possible communication artifacts, the number of examples. Notice board is one way of communicating. Newsletters, letter to the staff, press releases, annual reports, and so on and so forth. Even presentations, phone conversations, focus groups, face to face, lot many things. These are various examples of communication artifacts. Now the interpersonal and team skills, communication style assessment. This is a technique used to assess communication style and identify the preferred communication method, format, and content for planning communication activities. Because we are trying to plan what communication has, which is the most suited mechanism or method for this kind of communication. If you have to communicate to millions of people, then probably you can't even gather them together at one place. Maybe you have to resort to something like a webinar. Then political awareness helps the project manager to plan communications based on the project environment as well as the organization's political environment. Political awareness concerns the recognition of power relationships, both formal and informal, and also the willingness to operate within these structures. An understanding of the strategies of the organization, knowing who wields power and influence in this arena, and developing an ability to communicate with these stakeholders are all aspects of political awareness. So if you can somehow identify the right person to talk to, and you always approach the right person, this is your political awareness. And cultural awareness is understanding the differences between the individuals, groups, and organizations, and adopting the project communication strategy in the context of these differences. You take due regard of those cultural differences between the people. Maybe you know that once you are communicating in front of a community which does not like a certain attitude, you must avoid that. For example, in Singapore, this is a crime to be chewing a gum. So if you are doing that, it's not only offensive, but it is criminal for them. In China, the business community is very serious. Not like Americans, they don't cut jokes. And if an American speaker goes there to China and he starts cutting jokes in front of a business community, they don't like it. So you should be culturally aware where you are going and what are the norms of communication in that cultural setting. Okay, what should your communication management plan be including? Stakeholder communication requirements, as we already discussed. What all information is to be communicated, what language, what format, what content, level of detail, frequency of that communication, all that has to be decided beforehand. Escalation process. If this communication did not occur, what will happen? How are you escalating that issue? Reasons for distribution of that information. Why are you communicating that information? Time frame and frequency for the distribution. Who is responsible for communicating and who is responsible for authorizing that release of information? Person or group who will receive the information, including information about their needs, requirements, and expectations. Methods or technologies used to convey the information. How are you doing it? Through email, through press release, whatever. Resources allocated for communication activities, including time and budget. So whatever communication activities you are designing, you will have to keep their budget and allocate some time for that as well. Method for updating and refining the communication management plan as the project progresses and develops, such as when the stakeholder community changes as the project moves through different phases. You must always provide a glossary of common terminology as if the people who are receiving that communication must understand what the terminology is being used. A good idea could be developing a flow chart of the information flow in the project. What information is flowing from where to where and what all is included in it. So this is also included in the communication management plan. Constraints derived from specific legislation or regulation, technology or organization policies. In managed communication, now, but all strategy you have to devise, what all communications will happen, this has been designed. And now you are in a position during execution to manage that communication. Naturally, once you design that communication, you planned that communication, you did inform all about the communication management plan. Everybody has the communication management plan and they know what to communicate when and how. Now in execution, you must ensure that that communication does happen. It's not enough that you have already told everyone to follow the communication management plan and whatever is given there. Now you do not have to, ensure it. You have to ensure it. No matter if you have already conveyed them the communication management plan, still throughout the life of the project or throughout the execution process, you are responsible for managing that communication, meaning what? You will keep a track of all the communications, ensure that whomsoever is the source releases that information at that specific time, and whomsoever is the target of receiving that information has received that information. You can even issue reminders before that activity had to start, and that is a very good way of ensuring some communication. Project management plan is the input, where here we are talking about the resource management plan, communication management plan, and stakeholder engagement plan. All three of them could be used for managing the communication. And project documents, change log, issue log, etc. Work performance reports, which we created earlier from monitoring and control, a copy of that, copy of the work performance report is also coming to manage communication. And enterprise around factors and process assets are there. Tools and techniques are not new to us. We actually have to ensure everything which we planned. So we will use the communication technology, the communication method, the communication skills which include the competence, how good a speaker you are, feedback, non-verbal, verbal, presentations, etc. Project management information system, which we already talked about. A new thing here is project reporting. You will develop a report based on what the communications are happening. And then interpersonal skills and team skills. Probably we know all of these. We know active listening. We know conflict management. We know cultural awareness and political awareness. Meeting management, probably you understand that meetings have to be managed in an efficient manner. Again, it should be very clear what is to happen. You have to issue agenda before the meeting, and then during the meeting, you must act upon that agenda and take the minutes of the meeting. And those minutes of the meeting must be agreed during and at the end of the meeting with everyone. You must share it. You must get it vetted from all the participants, and you must share it with them. Networking, ultimately the meetings. Resultantly, your project communication will actually happen. Project and plan will be updated if needed. Communication or stakeholder engagement plan. Project documents can be updated, and organization process assets will be updated. Okay, techniques and considerations for effective communication management. Some of them are listed here. Sender receiver model, choice of media, writing style, meeting management, presentation, active listening. This we talked about. Okay, last is the monitor communications. This is the postmortem. This is not when the communication is happening. Communication has happened. For all those communications which have happened, we are trying to learn some lessons out of it. Or maybe for future communications, we may be changing something through change request and updating the communication project management plan. We can, affect the remaining work due to that. So here the project plan, project documents, work performance data is required here again, and enterprise manufacturing organization process assets. You see, work performance data was input into both these processes, monitor communication and manage communication. Both had the work performance data. Janab, hello? नहीं आ रही जी आवाज? जनाब बिल्कुल गई आवाज. अच्छा अच्छा, फिर आप ऐसा कीजिए कि आप थोड़ा अपनी अपनी साइड को देख लीजिए और मैं अपनी. हाँ जी जी बिल्कुल, कोई करें. ऐसा करें 3 बजे मिलते हैं फिर. ओके, टेक केयर. कोई सूरत ठीक हुई? कितना? व्यू आ रहा है आपका? Right. So we were talking about monitor communication. As I was saying, monitor communication is monitoring and control. Is in monitoring and control, and because all those items which are having some human interaction with them, they are shown as monitor. All other items are controls. So communication is monitor communication, monitor stakeholder, monitor risk. All these things are monitor. Because you cannot control the human beings. You have to interact with them, you have to monitor them. So for that, communication is monitor. So here we need a resource management plan, communication management plan, and stakeholder engagement plan for monitoring the communication. Work performance data is required because this work performance data is to be converted into work performance information and ultimately into the report from monitor and control project work. Tools here are the expert judgment, naturally, project management information system, and data analysis, that is stakeholder engagement assessment metrics. And your interpersonal skills will include the observation and conversation. Resultantly, work performance information is sent to monitor and control project work for consolidating the report. Change request for sent to integrated change control, and your project management plan will now have the updated communication management plan and stakeholder engagement plan, and project documents will also be updated. Okay, I don't think there is anything which needs explanation in this because this is simple monitoring and control. There is nothing which we have not covered so far. We have discussed all these items. Outputs are clear, work performance information, change request. Right. So rather than going on to the next chapter, let me jump directly to the stakeholder chapter. We will get back to this page 432 later. So let me jump directly to stakeholders. Yeah. Why I'm going to stakeholder is because stakeholder is exactly like communication. It is like very closely related. The only thing is, in stakeholder management, we have got 4 processes. The first process was in initiation, just after the charter was developed. That was identify stakeholders. So stakeholders were identified there. So that is the process of identifying project stakeholders, regularly and analyzing and documenting relevant information regarding their interest, involvement, interdependencies, influence, and potential impact on the project success. So we will do the stakeholder analysis and all that in identification. Later on, when we are in planning, we will develop a comprehensive plan for stakeholder engagement. This would give us the stakeholder engagement plan. Later in, just like communication, in monitoring and in execution, we will ensure that stakeholders are properly engaged. So we will keep in touch with them. We will keep communicating with them, working with stakeholders to meet their needs and expectations. If they have got any issues, that will be addressed. So we will keep them involved. They will be on board with us. So managed stakeholder engagement is just ensuring that stakeholders are in line on the same page with us. Later, just like monitor communications, we have monitor stakeholder engagement. This is a postmortem in which we will see what we have done so far with the stakeholder engagement, how it can be improved. If the project is still going on, we can make a change request or submit work performance information and so on and so forth. These are all the 4 processes of stakeholder. Identify stakeholder we have already discussed up to some extent. Okay, identify stakeholder. Because the charter has been developed and the project manager is now taken charge, and the very first thing he needs to do is to look around to identify the stakeholders. He would at that stage have, along with the project charter, the business documents, which include the business case and benefit management plan, which we have been talking about earlier. Project management plan will also be required here, which will include the communication management plan and stakeholder engagement plan. We will be developing, so far we have not developed. So these 2 things will be required for identification of stakeholders. But because identification of stakeholders has happened in initiation, so it could start without these things. Later on, because identification of stakeholder is a continuous process, therefore in future we will have the documents of project management plan along with it. Then we have the project documents like change log, issue log, and requirement documentation that is also available. Any agreements with our subcontractors are there. Enterprise environmental factor and organizational process assets. Tools we have here are naturally the expert judgment, data gathering. Naturally, just like we have gathered the information and data for requirements, here also we will get in touch with the stakeholders. We will ask them questions. We conduct surveys if there are many, and we will even have the brainstorming session. Who else can be the stakeholder? So we want to create a detailed list of all the stakeholders. Then we will analyze these stakeholders through data analysis. So the stakeholder analysis will take place in which we will weigh them and we will prioritize them. And the document analysis will also be done in this. Data representation would be showing the stakeholder mapping and representing who stands where. That means I would know exactly which stakeholder is the most important stakeholder. And we will conduct meetings with the people, with our own team, and ultimately a list of stakeholders will be the stakeholder register. Any change request could be made anytime, because identify stakeholder process is a continuing process. If it is happening anytime in the middle of the project, even then we can make necessary changes to the scope, time, and cost objectives. Project management plan will be accordingly updated. Maybe the requirement plan is updated, communication management plan, risk or stakeholder engagement plan. Any plan would have been updated in light of that. Project documents like assumption log, issue log, and risk register, that will also be uploaded. Where are we? Sorry. Data gathering, we have the same thing. Brainstorming, I think we don't need to go into the. There is one thing we need to talk about. Brainstorming, we can have brainstorming and we can have brain writing. Brainstorming is general data gathering and creativity technique that elicit input from groups such as team members or subject matter experts. So we are being creative in a team, in a group. What is brain writing? This is a refinement of brainstorming that allows individual participants time to consider the question individually before the group creativity session is held. So they can write their answers first and then they discuss with each other in a face-to-face group meeting. Data analysis is important here. Data analysis has two parts in it, stakeholder analysis and document analysis. As far as the stakeholder analysis is, that is more important. It results in list of stakeholders and relevant information such as their positions in the organization, what is their role, what are their stakes, what are their attitudes, what are their interests, and what is their priority. So these are the things which you have to look. The interest of each of the stakeholders, the rights, legal or moral rights, ownership. A person or group has a legal title to an asset or a property. So what does he own? Or knowledge, what is the special knowledge he carries, and what contribution he is going to make in shape of funds or resources or whatever. So these are all the things which we have to check for each of the stakeholders during analysis. Similarly, for document analysis, assessing the available project documentation and lessons learned from previous projects to identify stakeholders and other support information. Now, data representation is important because whatever we have gathered the data here, how can it be presented in form of a matrix or a graph or a chart? It could be depicted, the relationship between several things could be depicted as far as stakeholders are concerned in various ways. You can make a graph between power and interest, power and influence of the stakeholders, impact and influence of the stakeholders. So any one of these methods could be used, or even beyond these methods, if you can have any other method that could also be used. But we will look at the power interest grid. There are other methods: stakeholder cube, salience model, direction of influence, and prioritization. Where is it? Okay. There has to be a diagram which is not there. I think they have excluded that diagram in this. Okay, let me do power and grid. Power and interest grid. For example, this is the power each one of the stakeholders is exercising, and this is the interest. If I can divide this graph into 4 parts, so you see this is a high power and high interest. This is high power and low interest, low power and low interest, low power and high interest. Now, maybe we can divide it into a scale of from 0 to 10 and from 0 to 10, and we can allocate a value from 0 to 10 for power of each stakeholder and a value for interest from 0 to 10 for each stakeholder. For example, there is a stakeholder who gets 5 and 5. So that stakeholder would be placed there. Maybe there is a one who has 10 and 10 will be placed there. There is a stakeholder who is 6 in power and 2 in interest. So that would be somewhere at this place. There is a stakeholder which is 3 in power and 7 in interest, somewhere here. Then there could be yet another one which could be here, here and here. So these are various kind of stakeholders. Now you see that each stakeholder is falling into one of the quadrants. It is very clear that a stakeholder residing in the top left quadrant must be the most important stakeholder because he yields high power and he has high interest. So he not only is providing you resources, he is also interested to know everything what is happening on the project. There can be a stakeholder with high power and low interest, like a bank financing your project. He he has high power because he's providing all the funding for the project. But at the same time, he does not want to remain involved with whatever is happening. So all the progress going on in the project, if you start informing that thing to the project, to the bank manager all the time, he will be very much disturbed. He doesn't want to go into those details. He just wants to know certain things. How soon are you going to pay my loan back? So that could be reported to him in a monthly or quarterly report. So he needs nothing more. Therefore, because his interest is low, so his reporting requirements would be much lesser. Similarly, the people who are having low power and low interest, they are just on the watch list. We don't take any action about them. People with low power but high interest, this could be the general public. General public may not exercise any power, but they may have a lot of interest. They want to know what is happening. So, to the level of transparency, we can allocate them our space here, and we can keep satisfying them as far as their interest is concerned by providing them timely information. So anyone who is in the top left quadrant is most important to us. And naturally, up to some extent, these people are also important to us. So if I can take care of these people, then probably I have prioritized them. I have sorted them out.
It's very clear.
Okay. The other models we have here, for example, stakeholder cube. Now, these we are only comparing. In the earlier model, we have only compared two factors. What if there were three factors on which the stakeholder is being measured? I have two ways of doing that. Number one is I go for a three-dimensional cube. I can have this kind of three dimensions, X, Y, and Z, and I can place it is here, here, and here. So probably it will be, sorry, it would be something like this. So this could be represented in form of a cube, and in this cube your stakeholders will be placed somewhere. But there is yet another way of doing it. You remember the previous chart I had just shown you, in which we made four quadrants. We had power here, we had interest here, maybe third factor, whatever it is. Maybe that is the size of the stakeholder, the number of stakeholders, number of people under that stakeholder. So the bigger the stakeholder, the bigger the bubble is. This is also called a bubble chart. So we can have small bubbles, big bubbles, placed many places. This is also three-dimensional basically, because I'm representing three things here: power, interest, and size.
Right.
It could be represented as a stakeholder cube, or it could be represented like this. Or we can have a salience model. If you have got more things than two or three, then probably you have to devise a mechanism by which you can judge which features have what weightage. Just like, multi-criteria decision making, you can have a salience model, and in a salience model, we describe the classes of stakeholders based on assessment of their power, urgency, time constraint, are related to the stakeholder high stakes, legitimacy. So there are more than 1, 2, 3, 4 factors. So we may use our salience model by allocating certain kind of weightage to each and calculating by a formula. This is a salience model. Then we have got the direction of influence. Classify stakeholders according to their influence on the work of the project or the project team itself. Stakeholder can be classified as upwards, the senior management, downwards, the team, outwards, the stakeholder group and their representatives outside of the project team, and sidewards, the peers of the project manager. Last tool is the prioritization. Even if we are not doing, although we are doing prioritization in all of these methods, but if you are not doing by any of those methods, you can separately do the prioritization at your end. Okay, I'll just touch upon those things which are different. What should be included in the stakeholder register? Naturally, stakeholder identification number must be allocated. Some assessment information like major requirements, expectations and all that should also be included. Stakeholder classification. Is it an internal stakeholder or external stakeholder? What are the features you are collecting about him? Is he upward, downward, or outward or sideward, or any other classification model you choose? Okay. So coming over to the planning, where we plan the stakeholder engagement. Now the remaining three processes are exactly like communication. Like communication, we had something in planning. We developed a communication planning plan. Here we develop a stakeholder engagement plan. In execution, we will have managed stakeholder engagement. In monitoring and control, we will have monitor stakeholder engagement. So exactly the same mechanism. That's why I am going through it immediately after communication. So, like any management plan, we need to have charter, we need to have project plan, project documents, agreement. All of these things are common for all management plans. We don't call it a management plan because stakeholders cannot be managed. Stakeholders can be senior to you, so they have to be kept engaged. So therefore, they have changed the name. They call it plan stakeholder engagement, not management. What tools we need? We have already discussed almost all of these topics. Expert judgment, we understand. Data gathering, benchmarking, of course. Data analysis, assumptions and constraints analysis. So that is important because all the assumption constraints we have taken, we will put them forward. And because stakeholder is associated with the risk. Because risk is defined by the stakeholder. How much capacity a stakeholder has to bear the risk. What is the threshold a stakeholder has? So I have to take into account the assumptions because assumptions are great risks. So I will analyze the data and then also find the root cause analysis. Again, a tool of risk management. Decision making, prioritization and ranking of the stakeholders as we have been doing earlier. Also, we will keep doing that. The data representation through mind mapping, our stakeholder engagement assessment metrics, which we have just created in the previous process, and meetings. Ultimately, our stakeholder engagement plan will be created. So these are just the guidelines which are created. Basically, we started working on it already in identify stakeholder in initiation. Okay. Yeah, this is important. Let us watch this. Stakeholder engagement assessment metrics supports comparison between the current engagement level of the stakeholder and desired engagement level. Meaning what? I have to list down all the stakeholders and classify them, whether they are, how are they? Are they unaware? Are they resistant to the change? Are they neutral to the change? Are they supportive of the change? Are they in the lead role? every stakeholder will have a different capacity. The people who are making this change happen, probably they are ensuring, they are leading the change. There will be many stakeholders who will be supporting them. There will be many stakeholders who would have no opinion. They will be neutral. And there will be force majeure stakeholders who would be rather resisting it. And then there will be stakeholders who don't know nothing about anything. So they are unaware. So how do we plot them? This is a kind of a chart we create. Against each stakeholder, I will write these values where C represents the current engagement and D indicates the future engagement or the desired engagement. So unaware, resistant, neutral, supportive and leading, these are the 5 columns. Against each stakeholder, I will allocate where the stakeholder current engagement is. For example, stakeholder 1 was unaware. Stakeholder 2 was neutral. Stakeholder 3 was supportive. And what is my target? My target is to convert the unaware to supportive, to convert the neutral to supportive, and retain the supportive already. This is not necessarily that this is exactly going to be like that. We cannot make everybody a supportive, but sometimes what we have to do is we have to do it in small steps. Maybe if somebody is unaware, I can somehow convert that person into a neutral, if not supportive, because unaware is not really enjoying the benefits of knowing what is happening. As a neutral person, he would, he would be able to benefit from it, but may not carry any ideas about it. Anyways, it is good to convert an unaware stakeholder to a supporter. What about resistance? If there is a resistant stakeholder, I would first try to make him neutral and then try to make him supportive. For a stakeholder who is already a supportive, so that is enough with me. So far, against each stakeholder, I can draw this chart of stakeholder engagement assessment. Then comes the managed stakeholder engagement. This happens in execution. The process of communicating and working with stakeholders to meet their needs and expectations, address their issues, foster appropriate stakeholder involvement. So basically, I am just like communication. I said ensure that whatever you plan is communicated. Here, I am ensuring whatever I plan in stakeholder engagement, whether the stakeholders are being engaged or not. So I will go to each one of the stakeholders and keep asking them how do they feel? Are they comfortable? Do they feel involved? Is there a problem? Anything needs to be changed? If at all anything is required to be changed, I will make that change request. So this thing also starts with the same inputs: project management plan, project documents, enterprise model vectors, and process assets. And the tools we use here are basically, this is a close relative of communication. So communication skills will be used here. But out of the communication skills, feedback is the major skill which I am relying on as far as the stakeholders are concerned. I am using expert judgment, I am using the feedback, and interpersonal skills are the same which I use with my team, like conflict management, cultural awareness, negotiation, observation, conversation, political awareness. So using these skills, I will interact with my stakeholders. Then I will set up the ground rules. The boundaries will be drawn and the meetings will be held. And ultimately, if there is a change, that can go through the change request, and project and plan and project documents can be updated. So need not talk about any one of these things any further. Let us straight away jump to stakeholder engagement. So monitor stakeholder engagement is, as I said earlier, is like a postmortem. The results have come to us in shape of work performance data. We will evaluate those results. We will do the data analysis, alternatives analysis, root cause analysis, stakeholder analysis, and resultantly convert it into a work performance information, which will be sent to monitor and control project work. As far as decision making is concerned, if you are making certain decisions about the stakeholder engagement, whether it was successful or not, one way is multi-criteria decision analysis. You allocate certain marks for each capability and then see the KPIs you have identified, then see where you stand and then decide which stakeholder has how well you dealt with what stakeholder. Voting can be another way of doing the decision making. If there is a conflict of opinion, then we can ask for votes from the team and see which stakeholders have been considered satisfied and which are not. Data representation, again, stakeholder engagement. We can check on metrics, what we planned and where we actually could land. Communication skills, again, feedback and presentation, because we have to present the findings of this in front of stakeholders as if they know how well this thing has gone. This is going to be very positive if we have done the stakeholder engagement well, because the ultimate presentation or report will be positive, and that will be very encouraging for your project. But if this thing is not positive, then naturally we'll learn certain lessons out of it. We'll use all those interpersonal skills and meetings. As a result, the work performance information has been created. Change requests, if any, will be sent to integrated change control, and resultantly, project management plan and project documents will get updated. So this is as far as the stakeholder is concerned. Any questions so far?
No, I think this is typically following the same sequence as communication, so it's okay for me.
Exactly the same pattern. Okay, I think before we can start with the next area, we can have again a small little break. And secondly, do you have any time limitation? Should we be completing it today, or we can have a small patch again sometime?
There is, I mean, I can stay till 5:30 or so. After that, I need to go somewhere. I'm available tomorrow also. So either way, it's up to you. If you say no, we have to manage today after 5, then I can somehow manage.
I don't have any problems, because tomorrow, what it is? Tomorrow is Friday.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any commitment, so we can continue tomorrow. The rest of 2 areas we can do it tomorrow.
Okay.
You just
fine for me.
Whatever we have studied today, and if there are any questions or anything you are not comfortable with, then we can do that. But I will still recommend that if at all you can interact with me till you prepare for the exam, that would be very good. I have actually placed certain exams in here, certain tests for each knowledge area. And if you like, you can do it in my presence also.
Okay, that will be great.
So these are, can you see these? And tests you can find. Go to polls and tests. Polls and tests. Under the material it would be.
Under the material, okay.
Materials and then polls and tests.
The last thing I see is PMP 6 module 00.
No. I'm talking about
I cannot.
GoToTraining window.
Training. Because there are 3 windows. One is materials, one is chat, one is attendees. So inside materials, I have some PDFs that I can see.
Okay, let me try. Let me open a test for you, maybe stakeholders.
Okay.
And see what happens. Okay. What happened?
Nothing actually.
It will. It will. Why is it not working?
Not sure actually.
Okay, just let's forget about it. Well, I'll fix that. I don't know
Okay.
why it is not appearing in front of you. I can see the test and everything here, but you can't see it. Right. So
Yes.
for risk and procurement, we can continue again tomorrow at what time?
Tomorrow morning is fine for me, 9 o'clock.
Okay, 9 o'clock we'll do it, and probably we'll be free by 12. Right?
Sorry?
I think we'll be free by 12.
Okay, great. That will be great.
And when are you appearing in the exam?
Actually, as you mentioned, I need to read the PM book repeatedly at least 2 or 3 times. So once my sessions with you are over, I will start reading them. A bit depending on the job, I mean, when I join. So that also might affect the schedule. If I have some time, I will try to finish it as soon as possible. So the aim is to appear within, let's say, 6 weeks time or something like this, 6 weeks or around that time.
So just remain in touch with me, and we will be conducting
Right.
another PMP course during Ramzan also.
Right.
I'm not asking you to join, but if at all you want to, that would be session would be from 11:30 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. between Taraweeh and Sari.
Okay.
So there are two
Right.
joining there as well. So you can always drop in. There's no problem at all.
Sure.
I'll send
It
you.
will be good for me if I just drop in and see what is going on.
Exactly. Okay, then see you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
See you tomorrow, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care.